Hello, this is Matthew Sinix from SensibleDev.com, and today we're going to talk about how to update Bootstrap 3 to Bootstrap 4 in Visual Studio 2017. So, one of the issues that you'll find if you start a new project in Visual Studio 2017 is that by default it ships with Bootstrap 3, and nowadays most people are obviously going to want to do Bootstrap 4, so let's talk about how you can fix that. I'm going to start by just making a new project. It doesn't really matter which one that you do, but I'm going to show you what I'll do for the purposes of this demo. So, new project, select the web application, ASP.NET Core web application. I'm just going to call this Bootstrap 4. Easy enough. I'm going to select web application. And obviously you want to change the authentication if you want something different, but I'm going to leave this as no authentication because we're just sort of demoing this. It'll create the project. And let's take a look at what we have here. So one of the things, again, that you'll notice if you start a new project in Visual Studio is that it ships with Bootstrap 3. What our goal here is that if you go into this www root folder and expand that, you'll see there's a few different folders, CSS, JS. Those folders are for any sort of styles or JavaScript files that you create. What we really want to focus on is this lib folder. So if we expand that, you'll see Bootstrap, and it's here that we want to focus our energy. So if you expand that further, then look at dist, which stands for or is short for distribution. And for example, let's look at the CSS, bootstrap.css. Click on that. And you'll see we have Bootstrap 3.3.7. So obviously this isn't what we want. What we want is to change this to Bootstrap 4, and I'm going to show you in this video how to accomplish that. Now in this video, I'm going to show you two different ways of updating from Bootstrap 3 to Bootstrap 4. So let's talk about the first way, which is to simply go out to Bootstrap's website, download the compiled Bootstrap files, and then move that into the folder. And that'll work just fine. It does have a few drawbacks that I'll talk about in a moment though, but let's get into it, talk about how you would do that. So here I am at Bootstrap's homepage, just getbootstrap.com. Click on download. And then here, this is the compiled CSS and JS. This is what you want. You're going to click on the download button, and that's going to give you a zip file. And I'm in that right now, and you can see if you keep navigating through it, you have all of the different styles and JavaScript files that you would want to put in there. So all that I need to do here, take this, highlight it, copy it, and I'm just going to move it over into that folder. So of course, you're going to have to navigate to wherever you created your project. And then again, simply that path is www root, lib, bootstrap. And since I've already copied those files over, we want to go into dist as well. Paste. You can safely replace these files. And that's it. You're pretty much done from there. If we go back into Visual Studio now, we can see that it's now been updated to version 4.1.3. And as far as updating the files goes, we're done. This is fine. And this is a pretty common option that you can use. This is perfectly fine. You don't really need to do much else than this. If you're only planning on updating this once, this is especially fine for smaller projects, personal projects. The issue, of course, is that every time that Bootstrap updates, it's going to be a little difficult then for you to go out to Bootstrap's site, download it again, copy it over. Maybe difficult is the wrong word. Tedious might be a better word. So if you want something a little bit more robust, then let me talk about a second option. So the second option is going to be using Node Package Manager and Gulp to install Bootstrap and put the files where they need to go. The first thing you're going to want to do, if this is the route you want to go, is to head out to NPM's website. And that is simply npmjs.com/get-npm. And you're going to want to download it and install it if you haven't done so already. If you're especially a web dev who has been working on things for a while, you might have this installed already, which is great. You're set to go on that part. So back over here in Visual Studio, you're going to want to right-click the project, select Add, New Item, and then search for npm configuration, and you're looking for npm configuration file. Okay? That's going to create a package.json file in the root of your project. You could also just create a new file in the root of your project and call it that. You don't necessarily need to go through this dialog, but this is fine too. It's an easy way of doing it. So what you'll see at the bottom, it's created this file, and it'll auto open this, and you should see something like this. So now that we have our npm configuration file, this package.json, we're going to want to install a couple of things. So if I go down here to the package manager console, what I want to type first is cd bootstrap 4. And that's just to get into the folder where the actual files are. Like by default, this is sort of in that upper folder where nothing really lives except for a couple of files, and then you have to go into the next folder down to actually do this correctly. So cd bootstrap 4, where bootstrap 4 is the name of the project that you created. And then you want to install Bootstrap from npm. So npm install -s bootstrap. Give that a moment. In your package.json file, you'll see that it's added Bootstrap as a dependency. You should also be able to see over in your Solution Explorer, if you have the Show All Files selected, it's made this Node Modules folder here. And if I expand this, we can see that's where it installed Bootstrap to, right? Now, one thing you want to make sure to not do, don't add the Node Modules folder to your project. If you do, you're going to end up adding possibly thousands of unnecessary files as your project grows. It's tempting to add this in here, but kind of the same as like how you don't need to add the bin folder to your project, you don't need to add the Node Modules folder, and you shouldn't. All right. Next step is going to be installing a utility called Gulp. Gulp is a sort of a task runner. It's something that you can have run every time that you build your project that will do any number of things. But the thing that we care about in this case is having it copy over these Bootstrap files. Right? 'Cause if you expand this, we see the distribution folder. We want to be able to copy these up into this folder so that our project can then use it. So let's install that right now. For this, I'm going to run a similar command, npm install -s for save gulp. And we wait again. Okay, now that we've waited for that to complete there, see we have gulp here in our package.json file, which is exactly what we wanted. And then if we head over to our Node Modules folder, you'll see there's a whole host of things that are there. These are things that help Gulp work. These are dependencies of Gulp, which is again why you want to not include this in your project, because you'll be having all of these files in your project, and you don't need to do that. So what do we do next? Well, we're going to create a Gulp file. Right? So if I come back again to my project, we're going to do add new item, and this time we really just want a JavaScript file. And we're going to name this gulpfile.js. All right, so that put gulpfile.js into our project, and it's opened up over here. So this is the script file where we're going to tell Gulp how to copy over our files from node modules to the www root folder. So here's what you're going to type into this file. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to type const gulp equals require gulp. Next, we're going to create an array of the file locations for the CSS. So const bootstrap styles equals node modules slash bootstrap slash dist slash CSS slash bootstrap .min.css. And then bring this up a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. And for the next one, I'm just going to copy and paste this. We have the minified version as well as the non-minified version in there. So it's an array of the file locations for the styles. We then want to do something similar for the scripts. So I'm just going to copy and paste this here. Same sort of deal, right? So these are the locations of the Bootstrap files in the node modules folder. Next, we want to make a gulp task, and that can look a little bit funny if you haven't seen it before, but basically we call gulp.task. We give that a name, so we're going to call this task build bootstrap JS. Or actually, let's do CSS first to keep that in the same order. Build bootstrap CSS function requires a function. So this is what's going to happen when we run this task. And so what we want to have happen is we want gulp to take the gulp.src. All right, and you'll notice it says gets files that match it and convert them into the vinyl format. So you want, let's see here. You want to take what is at bootstrap styles. So this array up here. And then you want to say pipe gulp destination. Okay, so where's this going to go? And I'm going to copy in that destination. There we go. So let's pull this apart again. We're defining a task in gulp, calling it build bootstrap CSS. And we're saying, take what is at these locations and then put them, like gulp.destination, put them over in this folder. Then we want something similar for the JavaScript files. So again, copy and paste this over so I don't mess up the formatting. And you'll see something very similar here. Building the bootstrap JS, taking the scripts, moving them over into the correct folder. Finally, we need to define the task that's sort of like the meta task. So I have this here gulp task, calling it default. This is what is going to run when gulp runs. And I'm going to give it a series. In other words, run this task and then run this task. So this task is going to copy the CSS over. This task is going to copy the JavaScript over. Let's save that. And that's what's happening. Now, what we want to do is to have this run every time we build the project. All right. To do that, we need to do something a little bit outside of Visual Studio. There might be a way to do it in Visual Studio, but I'm not aware of it. So if we go here, so I'm back now in the project folder. What you want to do is to edit this file with a text editor. So just right click and open with, and choose whatever text editor you want. The problem with just trying to open this is going to open up your project in Visual Studio. It's not going to edit this file. So choose whatever text editor you want. I'm using Atom. Doesn't really matter which one. You choose. You should see something like this. And here's what you want to add. You're going to want to add a target tag, call it run gulp, and set the before targets flag to build. And then you're going to want to have this tag in there, the exec tag, and the command is node modules /bin/gulp.command. So that's going to run gulp, and what gulp is going to do is to look for our gulp file and try to run that and try to run the default task. Right, so I've saved that, and now what should happen is when I build the project, the gulp file should run that process. So let's make sure that that works. Bootstrap styles is not defined. Oh. Okay, and if you were actually following along, hopefully you noticed my error here. We misspelled Bootstrap up here. So, apologies, but now this should work when we build it. Okay, and now it has, and again we have Bootstrap version 4.3.1 in our distribution folder. So now that we've done that, there's one more thing that I want us to take care of, and that's to take care of a few references on the layout page. So in Visual Studio, if you head over to Pages, Shared, and Layout, one thing that you might notice is that we have these environment links. So in development, it points to the local files, which is perfectly fine, and we have that straightened out. But we still have these links to the CDN in production. So it says exclude development, in other words, not development, which is kind of another way of saying production. You have this over here, Bootstrap 3.3.7. So we need to fix that. In order to do so, we are going to head back to Bootstrap's site. And then you just need to go over here and click on Bootstrap CDN. We're going to copy these here. This is going to be the links, the most up-to-date links to the CSS and the JavaScript. So copy that. Head back over to Visual Studio. So we are going to replace this with those two links. Now, remember the second link was the JavaScript, so I'm going to highlight this and cut this. So now we just have CSS here. Okay, 4.3.1, perfect. Come down to the bottom of this page and the same sort of deal. So highlight that, paste that in, and now we have the updated Bootstrap CDN link there. So that's pretty much all we have for this section. As you continue forward, there are other things you're going to have to do to, for example, the nav bar up here. These classes and this structure are a little bit different from the way that they operate in 4, but that's a topic for another video. For now, I hope you found this helpful and that you should now feel comfortable in being able to upgrade from Bootstrap 3 to Bootstrap 4. If you found this helpful or enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. And you can also check out the website at sensibledev.com. Have a great day.